You know, this is a recycled budget, okay? These are exactly the same proposals he made last year. We talked about them, we rejected them, we did as much as we thought we could do, and we rejected the ones that are, and he's come back to the same ones that he had before. It's not, these aren't new. The cut to IHSS here is the same 90% of the people under this new proposal, or the same 90% of the people who would not have gotten services under the proposal he made last year. CalWORKs grant reduction, you know, has been around the block. There were CalWORKs changes, and I think we go back to Senator Steinberg's point that, you know, everything. We had a hearing yesterday on prisons, because prison reform is huge, and the cost of prisons and all of that is huge. And we all agree that the prisons should not be costing what they are. But, you know, he left a settlement on the table last year. He had Kate negotiate a settlement with Kelso that the court accepted, that they were prepared to pitch to the court, and they pulled back. I've never understood why they pulled back on that settlement, but they had a settlement that would have resolved a lot of these health care issues at a lower cost. He rejected his own settlement. I don't understand that. It's the partnerships that are missing. The employees will come to you and tell you how you could save money in there, but they won't talk to them and negotiate with them in good faith, as all businesses are asked to do with their employees. Ask General Motors how they got their savings and kept alive. How did Ford stay alive? They negotiated with their employees to figure out how to make the savings. This governor has refused to do that. And today he even said to you all, no, I don't want to talk to them. I'll just talk to the legislature. Well, you know, that's not what we're here for. They are the management. They are the administration. The reason the SHPO can't do their work is because there aren't enough people there, and the few people he has are on furloughs. And we tried to make that point to the administration last year. Some of these furloughs cost more than they save. The furloughing of BOE employees who collect taxes is not helpful. You know, the math doesn't work, as Senator Steinberg pointed out. You lose more money than you gain. And the same thing is true in the prisons. The same thing is true federal dollars that we are leaving on the table because the governor's insisted on furloughing employees who are paid with federal dollars to provide federal benefit checks in unemployment insurance and disability insurance and all of those areas. Those are federally funded employees. So not only is their pay paid by the federal government that we're losing, and that therefore those families aren't paying their taxes, and it's why Sacramento has one of the highest foreclosure rates in the state, even as the rest of the state starts to recover, because those employees aren't able to pay their mortgages. And it's federal dollars that they're leaving on the table. So they refuse to differentiate between the different jobs and different employees. If you furlough, as the governor has proposed, and he says he's avoiding layoffs, but we had 800 teachers in the prisons who are being laid off this month. And they came to us yesterday in a hearing, and they said, you know, what we do saves money, because if we do literacy, if we do vocational training for prisoners, which is what he says he wants to do, and under the reforms that we passed last year is important, you're not saving money by laying those people off, because in the end, you then have the recidivism, and you're going to have your caseload back up in the prisons, and you're not going to save the money that you expected from the reform. So what this budget mostly says is we weren't able to do the things we told you we could do, is management at Medi-Cal, in prisons, and in places. And therefore, we're going to now blame the federal government. We're going to blame the courts. We're going to blame everybody else. You know, they need to look inside and figure out how to manage the state first. And that will be the focus of our first couple of rounds of hearings. We're going to start hearings on this budget next Thursday. And, you know, we got to get their house in order first, and then we'll see what the gap is that we have to talk about any kinds of cuts or increases. The deficit that he's suggesting is mostly a very large portion of it. It is not like last year where it was this unanticipated humongous drop in revenues. This one is not about a drop in revenues. It's about a failure to meet the savings inside the administration that we said should be met. So that's why we're so focused on that, because a whole bunch of his proposed deficit are failures to meet his own management goals. And I think until we solve that, we're not clear what the problem is. It's not that huge drop in revenues. It's not a cash flow problem. We did solve all of that last year. And now what we're looking at is, I said we could do this. Oh, it turns out we can't. I said we could do that. It turns out, oops, we can't. We were unable to do what we said we would do. That's what we're hearing from him. And I think that's why you're hearing so much frustration. And he's throwing it back on us and saying, well, now I want to cut the programs the way I wanted to cut them last year. And before anybody's going to go there. they're going to try to figure out how to solve the first problem, which is why has there been such a huge erosion in the proposed savings? Because this is not an erosion of revenue dollars. This is an erosion of savings.
Is that the biggest frustration, or
Yeah,
is
I think that's,
yeah?
And the fact that he continues to do this sort of finger pointing thing. It's the legislature, it's the courts, it's the federal government, it's the state employees. Instead of sitting down and making partners, he did that speech about the pig and the pony the other day. I mean, he needs to learn from that. I mean, he needs to find partners, and his partners are the state employees. Why would you not sit down with the people who are on the front lines, who know where the savings are, who are willing to make those sacrifices and figure that out? But you need to do it in the same context, in the context of collective bargaining. If Ford can do it, I don't know why the state of California can't.